Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Shally Kids. My name is Shakira and today we're gonna be reading The Sleeping Beauty. Let's get into this book. Retold by Judy Hamilton, illustrated by Lindsay Duff. Once upon a time, king and queen ruled in a land far away. They had always wanted a child and so were very happy when the queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, perfect in every way. A great celebration was planned for christening her. The king invited 12 good fairies to come and give their magic gifts to his precious baby daughter. On the day of the christening, the fairies stepped up to the crib, one by one, the gifts of beauty, one of kindness, and of true friendship. All these and more they gave to the princess. 11 fairies had given their gifts, and the king and queen were waiting for the 12th fairy to step up to the crib. When there was a noise from the doorway and everybody gasped. Standing in the doorway was a 13th fairy. She was a wicked fairy and had not been invited to the christening. She was very angry, pushing her way through the crowd. She marched straight up to the royal cradle, brandishing her wand. "This is my gift for the baby princess," she announced, glaring at the baby. On her 16th birthday, she will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel, and she will die. The crowd watched, speechless with horror, as the wicked fairy waved her wand over the cradle. Everyone stood silent and terrified as she wrapped her cloak around herself and, crackling with laughter, made her way outside. The awful deed was done in seconds. When the wicked fairy had left, the queen began to weep with fear and misery. "What can we do?" she cried. Then the 12th good fairy stepped up to the cradle. She had not yet given her gift to the princess. "I cannot undo the terrible spell completely," she said, "but I can help. This is my gift for the baby. On her 16th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on the spindle of a wheel. But she will not die. Instead, she will sleep for 100 years. And so the last fairy cast her spell. But the day that had started so happily still ended with sadness for everyone." The king still hoped that he could stop the princess from pricking herself. He ordered that all spinning wheels and spindles in the land were to be burned. Royal servants were sent to every corner of the kingdom to carry out his orders. Soon the glow of burning wheels lit up the countryside. When all the spinning wheels and spindles had been burnt, the king felt sure that his daughter would come to no harm. Years passed as the royal princess grew more lovely every day. She was sweet-natured, kind, and happy, and made her parents very proud. But as her 16th birthday drew nearer, the king and queen grew more fearful. At last, the prince's 16th birthday arrived. The king and queen watched anxiously over her, trying to prevent her from coming to harm. But in a quiet moment, the princess slipped away from them. The castle was very big, and were still rooms in it that she had never seen. So she decided to explore. In a corner of the castle, far away from her parents, she found a tiny little door. She opened it and saw a narrow, winding staircase. Curious to find out where it led, the princess climbed the twisting steps. When she reached the top, she found another door. She opened the door and found herself looking into a turned room where a shriveled old woman was sitting working at a spinning wheel. "Come in, my dear, and watch me spin," said the old woman. Of course, the princess had never seen a spinning wheel before, and she was quiet. Intrigued, the old woman sat spinning for a few seconds longer and then stopped. "Why don't you try it, my dear?" she said, holding out the spindle to the princess. With a smile, the princess eagerly reached out to take hold of the spindle, but as she did so, she pricked her finger. Immediately, she fell to the floor in a deep sleep. The old woman disappeared, and in her place stood the wicked fairy. She laughed when she saw that her magic had worked. The 12th good fairy had been waiting for this to happen. As the princess fell to the ground, the fairy cast another spell, and all the other people in the castle immediately fell asleep as well. "The princess shall not sleep alone," said the fairy. Sentries fell asleep in their sentry boxes. The cooks slumped against the kitchen tables. Servants all over the castle dropped into deep sleep in the middle of their chores. The king and queen sat sleeping on their thrones in the great hall. The animals belonging to the royal household all fell asleep too. Soon there was not one living creature left awake in the castle. All was silent. And so it remained for years and years. The rooms of the castle were filled with dust. Spiders moved in and wove their cobwebs everywhere, like lace hanging from the ceilings and door. Springs, the great gardens which surrounded the castle were next. The weeds grew unchecked and smothered many of the beautiful plants that had grown there. The grass on the lawns grew tall and spindly. Enormous clumps of brambles and other thorns began to grow up the walls. As the years passed, it became harder and harder to see the castle, as the brambles and thorns began to cover it, and still the princess and the royal household slept. Then one day a prince from another kingdom came riding in the woods which surrounded the castle grounds, and saw what he thought was a mountain of brambles and thorns. He rode nearer, and among the brambles he caught sight of one of the castle windows glinting in the sunshine. He had heard the story of beautiful sleeping princess and realized that this must be the castle in which she lay. He summoned his men to help him, and together they managed to cut a path through the thorns all the way up to the castle door. The prince held the door open, creaked as it swung back. Taking a deep breath, the prince stepped into the slight hallway and gasped to see all the sleeping people. The prince began to explore the castle everywhere. He found sleeping courtiers, servants. He had to step over them in doorways. He found them sleeping on staircases or snoring in corners. At last he came to the third room where the princess lay. He gazed at the sleeping princess. She looked beautiful. She had been sleeping for 100 years now, but she was as lovely as she had been one day of her 16th birthday. The prince fell in love with her instantly. He kissed her gently. As he did so, the princess opened her eyes and smiled. At that moment, the rest of the people in the castle woke up, stretching and yawning. Everyone was amazed to see what happened to the castle. While they had to, dogs began sniffing around in search of food, and horses began to whinny in the stables. The prince and princess walked together hand in hand out of the third room and went in search of the queen. The king was overjoyed to see that his precious daughter was safe and well. And then the prince asked the king and queen for their permission to marry the princess. They set plans in motion at once for the castle to be prepared a great wedding. Bells rang out all around the kingdom on the day that the young prince and his sleeping beauty princess were to be married. The princess looked radiant in their wedding gown, and the prince looked proud and handsome as he stood beside her at the altar. The king and queen cried with happiness as they watched their daughter begin married. The wedding feast went on all night. There was music and dancing, laughter filled the air. It was a great celebration that had ever been in the kingdom, and the 12th good fairy was the guest of honor. The end. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.